Coming up on Senior Tack, an AO Precision True Mil-Spec SP HPT MPI bolt carrier group. I just got this and I'm going to tear it apart and we're going to check it out together. We're going to see just how Mil-Spec it is. All right, stand by. Okay, so here we go. This is the AO Precision True Mil-Spec SP HPT MPI bolt carrier group. SP meaning is shot peened, HPT means it's high pressure tested, and then MPI means it's magnetically particle inspected after they do the high pressure test. So first appearance, the way they're looking at it, the machining on it is really nice. Yeah, there's no machine marks on it at all whatsoever. Very good machining. The manganese phosphate coating on the carrier is very smooth throughout. It looks like they may put a little bit of oil or something on it. Looking at the gas key to the carrier, it doesn't look like it has any blow-by or anything like that, but they say that the gas key is sealed on there with Permatex. And the reason why I have two different color gloves on is if I'm holding something black here, you can't see it, but if I put blue, you know what I'm talking about. So the gas key here, the blue where my fingers are at, grade 8 bolts. Can you see the staking? And I can't tell. There we go. Staking is really nice. So yeah, it's chrome lined. You can tell by the silverish color inside the gas key. So I'm going to pull it apart and talk about the carrier a little bit more. So stand by. Here we go. I've got the bolt carrier group disassembled as much as I'm going to disassemble it. I've got the bolt over here, cam pin, firing pin, retaining pin. I've already gauged this out, so I know what the gauges are, but I set them up and I marked them to where I could show them to you pretty quick. It is chrome lined, as you can see here. Flashlight, and there you go. It's pretty, it's very pretty down in there. It's shiny and smooth. The gas key is chrome lined, and like I said, there's no blow-by at the gas key, and it looks like you can see the Permatex gasket material right in there. I expect pretty good things out of this. So there we go. Check that. One of the things you want to check, you really want to take everything apart when you get things and clean them up, gauge them out and check them, make sure they're good. Chad just did a video talking about a School American rifle of, you don't think your AR-15 needs to be gauged and checked. Well, I completely agree with Chad. If you're buying or building, you should check all your components on your rifle. So anyway, weed eater line into the gas key, and as you can see, it goes down in, and proof's in the pudding. You can see the weed eater line sticking in there. There's a weed eater line. So anyway, gas key passage is clear. Reverse torque test. So I've got it set. I don't have it set. Let me set it real quick. I'm going to set it to 20. What you do is you take your inch-pound torque wrench, fat wrench, and you can put it in a vise or whatever if you need to. I can do it by hand, but I want to check the tension on the screws. If it breaks loose at 20, you need to replace not only the screws, but you need to replace the gas key. If you break loose at 30, which is the highest that it's recommended taking up to check for the reverse torque. Yeah, you have, these are one-time use items. Once you put them in, they're good. But if you take them out, you have to replace them. So anyway, here we go. So here's a 20. You can See right there, and put it in there and click. Good. Back one's good. And front one's good. Let's run it up to 30. So when you're putting on the gas key, after you check it and make sure that it's flat and smooth by stoning it, all you basically want to do is just make sure that's flat. You don't want to take any material off the bottom of the gas key, but make sure it's true to the carrier itself. You can't do anything about the carrier, but the gas key you can. So here we go, 30 inch-pounds. So stick it in there and reverse torque test at 30. Passes. And front key or front screw passes. I'll do another one just to make sure. So good to go. And you always want to take the torsion off your inch-pound torque wrench. So those were inch-pounds, 20 inch-pounds, 30 inch-pounds for testing. When you install it, up to 58 inch-pounds is what it's supposed to be torqued to. And you want to make sure that the threads are wet when you put them in. Don't necessarily need to put any Loctite or anything on the threads. Just makes it difficult to take it apart. But if it's staked properly and torqued properly to spec, then it's good to go. So let me see, we'll check the length. Zero it out. Check the length of the carrier. 6.675. That's pretty good. And okay, so now we're going to run to the bores and the thing. So it's supposed to be 0.531, the first bore. Here's a 531. 0.531. And it barely wants to start. So just a little undersized. Let's do a 0.530. Can't see it on camera very well, but you can. So it's 0.530. So it goes in smooth. It's got a little bit of drag on it, so that's good. So the first run is really good. 0.530. So the next run, which is the gas run, the gas key run, so that area that I was measuring here first is for this area right here on the bolt. This is the bolt's support shoulder. So that mates up with the first one. So the second one is the gas ring run right here. So I'll try a 0.50, and I know it won't fit because I've already done this. 0.50 kind of wants to start, but it doesn't go. So we're going to take it down to 0.499. 99 right there. 0.499 wants to go, but it's a little too tight. So we're going to take it down to a 0.498, and I was smart. I marked it this time. 0.498. So the gas ring run is, look at that, it's a 0.498. So this is going to be a very efficient carrier so far. Now the next one is the bolt tail. So this bolt tail, there's a hole back in the back in this section up here for the bolt to go into. So we're going to check it out, and the tail opening should be 0.252, which is 252. I know it won't go, but I just want you to see. So 252 does not want to go. So Jeff, it's smaller than 252. That's fine. It's fine. It's within spec. 0.251. It can be plus or minus 3/10,000ths of an inch, according to TDP. So here's a 0.251. 251. There it is. 252 won't fit. 251 is, it's got a little drag, but not an issue at all. So we know it's a 251. So we have the bores are 530 for the main bore, 498 for the gas ring run, and then 251 for the bolt tail. So what does that mean? That means it's a little bit smaller in dimension than what it should be by the TDP, but that's not a bad thing. The big telltale is going to be on the bolt itself. So I'm going to cut the camera, I'm going to pull this apart, and I'm going to show you what I look for on that. So very, very impressed with the carrier so far. So here we go. So here we go. I have the bolt. I didn't disassemble it because I wanted to show you a few things before I disassemble it. So like I said, this is the support shoulder that rides in, down, up and down inside that chamber. This is for the cam pin. And on the back side of this opening for the cam pin, I can show you real quick. It'll only go in one way, so you can't mistakenly put it in the wrong way. So what they do when they manufacture these is they use a steel ball and they swedge this or smack the steel ball and bend the material down so it will not go through. So the cam pin is relatively tight in there. I think you're going to be impressed with the dimensions when I show it to you. And the gas rings, they're brand new. It's pretty tight when I took it out. And you can tell that it's been fired. It's got a little bit of residue up in the tail section itself, right in here. But that's no big deal. I'm glad they test fired it. Which is good because it says right here it's high pressure tested. HPT and MPI means it's high pressure tested and magnetically particle inspected. So they used a proof round to check and make sure that it's not going to blow up. And it's a pretty substantial round. So anyway, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the ejector, and I'll talk about the ejector and that bore itself, and then I'll talk about the extractor. And I've already made changes to this. It had the commercial off-the-shelf spring insert and the O-ring in it. I don't like those. I pulled it out and I put SPRINCO in there, but you'll see that. So let me take this apart. So I'm going to use this, push this out, push all the way out, take the extractor off, and as you can see, that's a SPRINCO spring, 5 coil, and it's got the insert down in it, and the extractor itself is in, it's very nice. I'm assuming it's 4140. It's phosphate coated as well, and yeah, it's very sharp, very, very sharp. So what I'm going to do now, I don't know necessarily supposed to show this on YouTube, but I'm going to pull this out. And the other thing that I upgraded is I put a spiral pin in. I don't like using the split pins because they do rust, they do break. You can agree, you can disagree, whatever. I know what my experience has shown over the years, and so I started using spiral pins probably 10 years ago and haven't looked back since. So you drive that out. And back this off. As you can see, the ejector comes out pretty easily. And I also upgraded, so there's the spiral pin. I don't know that you're going to be able to see that very well. Passivated, will not rust, will not corrode. And so here we go, looking at the bolt face. So first thing I'm going to check is the bolt face opening. So the opening is supposed to be a 0.380 right here. And we have a 0.380 gauge. And look at that, fits right in there. Just for shits and giggles, let's try a 0.381. 0.381. And it does not, it kind of wants to go in, but it doesn't want to go in. So that's no big deal. So the TDP specifies the bolt face opening to be anywhere from 0.380 all the way up to a 0.385. And as you can see here, that's a huge difference, 0.380, 0.385. So pull this out, and that won't even think about going into 0.385. So yeah, so the other thing that I check is the bore for the ejector. So that bore is supposed to be a 0.109, and I just so happen to have a 0.109. Let's see if you can see that. That's really small, 0.109. And as you can see, it's got a blue mark on it. That way it identifies where the damn numbers are at so I can see it. And the red mark is from the end of here to the edge of the red mark is a 1.12. So that red should completely go away. If it doesn't go away, that means this bore in here might be a little too shallow. So here we go. Go stick it down inside this bore. It's tight. Oh, there's a spring in there. Probably should take the spring out, dumbass. So there's a SPRINCO spring, and they're pretty damn strong. I'm glad I didn't stick that down in there because that would have sucked. And as you can see, the red, I want you to see it. The red disappears. So it's at the correct depth, and I'm going to push it all the way down. So the depth is correct, the bore is correct. So that's good. We like that. So the other thing you want to check is the compression of the spring with the ejector. Now the ejector is supposed to be at 0.450 length. And the diameter should be close to 0.109. So let's check that real quick. I'm not even sure. So, and the other thing you want to have on, change gloves so you can see it. There's a cutout on the ejector right there. You want the top edge of that to be chamfered, rounded over. And it is, so it's good to go. 0.452, so it's a little bit long, but that's not a deal breaker. It can be up to the TDP on the ejector. .452 plus 0.10 of an inch. So it's a little bit long. It's 0.10 of an inch, a little bit too long. No deal breaker. The other thing too is the spring length. After it's been compressed 3 different times, they check them. It's supposed to be 0.926. Don't compress it. So it's 0.923. But the big thing you want to look at is put your spring down in there, put the ejector down in there, and you want to make sure, you want to be careful when you check this because it can go flying out. So the ejector needs to be down past the face or level with it. So I'm going to use the punch, going to push it down. Hopefully you can see this. And it goes down, it's even with the face, so that's good. So those things, we know that's good. Get the spring out. So the dimensions, the critical dimensions on the bolt itself is the shoulder itself is supposed to be at 0.528. And zero it out, you can see it. So I'm going to measure that. .255. So we'll go with this one, 0.250. 0.2507 to be exact. Curious about the calipers. Yeah, so the dimensions 250, 528, and the dimensions of the bores were 530, so 0.530 and 0.528. So there's 0.02 of an inch difference between this shoulder and the bore itself. And then on the tail in the carrier is 0.251, and the tail is 250, so 1/1000 of an inch. So the gas ring run is 0.498. So the gas rings are supposed to be 0.512, and it's really hard to measure those like that, but out of curiosity, I'm just going to compress this down. And this dimension here is not necessarily super critical, but if it's too big, you're going to have problems with your bolt carrier. .485. So not even going to come close to rub it inside the gas ring run. So, and as you can see, we'll check it real quick right here, and it's pretty damn tight. And these are brand new, so I was talking about. So the other dimension on the bolt you want to check out is this bore here. So that bore in the bolt itself, the cam pin hole is supposed to be 0.31275. So here's a 0.312. And this is just actually a little bit small. 0.312 doesn't want to start. So I literally pulled a 0.311 out, marked it so you can see it. .311, and it goes in fine. So 0.311. So what's the dimension on this, the cam pin? So we know that's 311. And these are not dimensions I've made up, guys. These are all dimensions directly from the TDP. A lot of people don't like the TDP, but I do. So 0.3, here we go, 0.309. So that dimension is 0.311. Cam pin dimension is 0.309. You can see that. So, not making anything up. And as I was saying, it's a very good fit down inside here. Very good fit. It's not super tight. And I did already modify this. I marked it. I mark all my firing or the cam pins. That way I know that I'm putting them back in the same way every single time. So those dimensions are good. That dimension is good. And if you're real anal like I am, you can check the bolt tail opening where the firing pin goes in. The firing pin opening is supposed to be a 0.635. Or the bolt tail opening, I'm sorry. The bolt firing pin bore is supposed to be a 157. Here's a 157. 157 won't go. Here, let me show you. I just saw it. Where is it at? Just saw it. Yeah, 157. 157 will not go. So let's try 156, which is no big deal, not a deal breaker. You just need to be aware of your dimensions on your components. I think I'm on the wrong end. I am. Turn it around. So 156, you saw that? And down into the bore it goes. A little snug, no big deal. So that dimension is 0.156. So what's the shoulder, or what's the dimension on the firing pin? If that's 156, shouldn't the firing pin shoulder, or not the shoulder, but the diameter be close to 156? Well, let's see what it is. So we're going to take this down to, let's do 156 because we know that's what that is. So the firing pin is 0.153. So 0.03 of an inch difference. So the firing pin is going to go in and out relatively smoothly. Shouldn't bind or anything like that. It's dry, it needs lubrication. But yeah, so the other thing, check that. And this is definitely an M16. That shoulder is supposed to be 375. I believe it's 375. Use this caliper. I trust this one better. Look at that. 0.373. So it's a little bit smaller. No big deal. Because it can be less than 5 thousandths of an inch. So it's 0.373. It could be all the way down to 0.370, but it's at 0.373, which is perfectly acceptable. 374 at that time, huh? I think I got my glove in it. 373. So firing pin, like I said, goes in, it's smooth. And the last thing we're going to check on this is the firing pin protrusion. So I got my handy dandy zeroed out. Get it zeroed out in it. Alright guys, after a little bit of research and digging around, finding out this actually had some crap up inside it. So I cleaned it out and I fixed my gauge. So it's now zeroed. And I know this is a different firing pin. This is from one of my other rifles. So it's a 0.34. So it's almost too long. So here's the firing pin that came in this. Zero back up. So you see 0 right there, and firing pin 0.031. So the firing pin protrusion is fine on this bolt with this firing pin. I'm not going to put the longer one in there. I'll put it back in the other gun it came out of. So after all the checks and everything else, yeah, I'm going to put it back together. And let me see, what did I not talk about? So the firing pin's good, firing pin protrusion's good, firing pin drop free, the ejector and the extractor with the 5 coil SPRINCO spring, and it spins freely on this. This is one of the things I didn't check, but I know it does. So there you can see it's spinning freely. I'm not going to worry about being magnetized because I know it's not, because I already checked it. But yeah, so there we go. So yeah, I'm going to put it all back together, then I'll give you some closing thoughts. So stand by. Okay, guys, final thoughts on the AO Precision SP MPT HPI 556 bolt carrier group. Do I like it? Absolutely, I like it. It is pretty much a textbook TDP bolt carrier group from their specifications to the dimensions and everything else. Some of the dimensions are a little tight, but that's not a bad thing because it's going to make this a very efficient bolt carrier group. I can't wait to try it and see how well it actually runs and works. The only issues that I did have with it, that way I'm completely transparent about it, is the bolt. As you see, what I was trying to measure it out, I cut the camera because I was thinking there was something wrong with my gauge, and it wasn't anything wrong with my gauge. After doing a little research and I said something about it, I figured out that there was some crap up inside the bore for the firing pin and the bolt itself. Once I got that cleared out, got it smoothed out the rest of the way, I actually used a numbered bit and ran it up in there using my fingers. I didn't put it in a drill bit or anything like that, and cleaned the crap out of there, and it came out in little pieces of metal. No big deal. But you know what? When I put the firing pin back in it, it ran a hell of a lot smoother. And yeah, it gauged out at 0.031, I believe that's what it said. And also the firing pin, not the protrusion, but the firing pin hole was actually to a TDP spec, which is 0.06325. So it's exactly the way it's supposed to be. But yeah, for the money, you can't beat this. It was $69 on sale with shipping. I paid for the 3-day shipping. Wow, I really don't want to get off on the shipping thing. It took way too long to get here. We'll just put it that way. I ordered it on the 27th of December, didn't get it till the 13th of January. Why should it have to take that long? It shouldn't. But anyway, that's not AR-15's problem. Definitely not AO Precision's problem. But yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more cognizant about the shipping times and everything else if I order things through them. Like I said, this is the first time I've ordered through them, and hopefully that's not a example of everything. But this is an example of one, just like Chad would always say from School of the American Rifle, and you can't base everything off the one example. But in their defense, not necessarily their defense, they've been around since '82. They had contracts to manufacture parts for Colt, Sig Sauer, FN, and Mossberg back from '82 on to about 2004. 2004, they got acquired by Juno Investments LLC, who dumped a bunch of money into equipment, machinery, employees. They doubled their sales growth, and their QC has just done nothing but get better and better over time. Which if this is an example of their QC, I'm pretty freaking impressed with it. Other than that, that little thing in there. But should they have caught that? Maybe it went out on Friday. I don't know. I have no idea. But they do a lot of stuff for a lot of other companies. Commercially, they provide components for Alexander Arms, Bulldog Barrels, Colt, Delton, FN Manufacturing. Colt and FN we know because they had the M16, M4 contracts, both of them. DSA, Krieger Barrels, Walther, LaRue Tactical, LWRC, Noveski, Mossberg, Primary Weapon Systems, Rock River Arms, Sig Sauer, Shaw Barrels, Smith & Wesson, Wilson Arms, Wilson Combat. I'm interested about the LaRue Tactical, LWRC, and Noveski. I thought that they manufacture everything in-house. Well, if they manufacture everything in-house, why are they saying that they're supplying components for them? That's a question for another day. So anyway, would I buy it again? Absolutely. Should you buy it? Absolutely. I will leave the description and the video description letting you know exactly which model this is. That way you can order the same one. They have another one that's relatively identical other than the fact that it is nitride coated. And I think it might have a 9310 bolt. I'm not really sure. I didn't really check too deep into it because I really wasn't concerned, because I'm not interested in nitride bolt carrier groups. So anyway, that's it. That you saw it right here, and I apologize if the video took too long. I'm a little too anal about some things, but I'd rather be anal than not catch it and find out that I have issues that I could have adjusted and fixed myself. So anyway, my dad advice for you, anybody that's buying rifles and building rifles, is when you get them home, take them apart completely, clean them, double check everything, clean the orifices out, the bores and everything, put it back together, oil it up, and then go and try it. Don't just go take it out thinking that it's going to work right off the bat. This probably would not have even ran had I not checked the firing pin protrusion the way that I did. So anyway, and like I said, the only modifications I made to it was I marked the cam pin, and then I put SPRINCO springs in it. SPRINCO ejector spring, SPRINCO extractor spring, and the insert for this extractor spring. I didn't put a donut on it. I don't like the donuts. Don't need it, especially on SPRINCO spring. Anyway, so that's it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So can't think of anything else. So God bless you. God bless your family. God bless Donald Trump. God bless America. And look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching. This is Jeff from SRT Armor, out.